Good day, everybody. Hope you're doing awesome. Um, Today is episode 5, where we talk about the topic of income and expenses. Now, in our last discussion, we discussed the importance and the need for community engagement and why it's important for an entrepreneur to have a sense of community, because no one person can do everything. People need to work together to make businesses work. And we touched a little bit about volunteering, networking, social media, community presence. And today our main focus would be income and expenses. So we'll be talking about the importance of, when you get started and you get your first client, it's very important to create a business account to separate your personal and business expenses. And then when you file for an LLC, it would be important to get an EIN and D&B. D&B would be done in Bradstreet. But the goal is to legitimize your business presence, and an EIN is something you file with the IRS for. We'll also be discussing bookkeeping through Quickbooks and similar platforms like Xero, FreshBooks, Wave Accounting. We'll discuss why it's important to track finances. We'll also discuss filing taxes and the importance of filing taxes. And finally, we'll touch a little bit about diversifying business interests and building a positive ecosystem of ownership. So Byron, yeah, I'm excited to discuss these topics with you today. How's your day going, and how's the weather in Seattle treating you?
Man, it's been very beautiful recently. Yeah, no, I've been enjoying it. I love the tropical weather. It's not necessarily tropical, however, I enjoy it. And I got into this because I wanted to buy my time back. I wanted to be able to travel the world, and I understood what that took. They either took, a combination. Well, I knew it took a combination of savvy, resources, and relationships. And that's kind of a reason why I've stayed on the journey, because I've enjoyed being in those processes. I've enjoyed learning about why this is important. And one of the most important things is the tracking of your income and your expenses. Essentially, we're in business to make money, and not necessarily you don't have to make money, but when you do make money as a business, things can be in your benefit, whether that's buying your time back, setting up your future in a way that you want it to be, and setting up your time right now as you want it to be. And it's daunting because we don't really necessarily know the entire platform. There's so many different blogs that are going to tell you this, and that. But really the thing to do is just start. Incorporating your LLC will allow for you to have confidence in yourself, but then also it provides you the proper identification and entity-like presence when you're approaching different institutions, like a credit union, like a bank, like Dun & Bradstreet, like the IRS. Those are institutions that you essentially are building a different level of relationship with now that you step into the space of quote-unquote business owner, investor, what have you, in the space of owning another entity. And so you don't have to be scared about it. We were talking about this earlier, right? I mean, there are different places to go to start the opportunity of having a bank account, but try your local bank. Try the bank that you go to. I mean, what are some suggestions you have, Mahir?
I like it. I think, this is where people get a little bit stuck at the early stages of like, what do? I don't have a credit score. I don't know how I can go about creating a business account. But the process is actually very simple. You don't need a credit score. to get a business account. And, like you said, Byron, going to your bank provider that you currently have a checking account with, going into the branch and requesting them to create a business account for you. It's as simple as that. There's also other
And it may
options
even be more easier since you have a relationship with them, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And you were saying some other options?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like when I started Upside Team, my first goal was to apply for a business bank account with JP Morgan Chase. Unfortunately, they gave me a hard time. They wanted me to come into the branch. It was in the middle of the pandemic, and most of the branches were closed at that time. And then for some reason, they just rejected my application. So I'm like, do hell with this. I know JP Morgan has a great reputation, but at the same time, let's try a small business bank provider. So I explored my options, and I eventually bank with a company called Novo, and they're part of the Federal Credit Union. And I've been happy with banking with them, and they have a few benefits for small business owners to maintain the bank accounts. You don't charge high transaction fees, and they have a very simple user interface. So I'm happy with banking with them, and I think that's something that young business owners should figure out. Like, there's so many options to get a business account. Don't just aim for the big banks, because the big banks, they don't care about you as a small business. They're more interested in their larger customer base. And throughout history, large banks will never be a good benefit for small business owners. If you're a small business owner, it would be advisable to just bank with someone who you feel like you can have a good relationship with. Do some research, look at the reviews online, look at the benefits, because before I opened a bank account, I also looked at some of the benefits of each of the bank accounts. And since my business type is outsourcing, I pay a lot of my contractors overseas. So I had to find an account that allows me to easily compensate my contractors offshore without having heavy fines charged to me for sending money offshore. So that was some of the needs that I had when I created my bank account, but I also saw—
Got to make it work for you,
Yeah, exactly. You got to make it work for you. And depending on what your business model is, just spend maybe 2 hours and do some administrative research yourself on what is the best option for me, whether I should, create a bank account with— it could be JP Morgan Chase, for all you know, but it has to fit with your business model, right?
Easily. Yeah. I started with the bank that I was working with, or the credit union that I was working with prior to when I was in college. And it was just a pretty easy transition. They didn't really ask me too much. They just needed my documentation. They needed to know everything was correct. And then I also had a relationship at the credit union that I went to, which is another powerful thing about building your community and letting people know what your vision is, so that they know that you're not just trying to swindle anyone. It's kind of hard to explain some of the business types that people want to get into. I used to work at a banking institution where there was a client who brought a prospect who bought his information, and he wanted to create a bank account. And our management gave him a really hard time because they were suspicious of his character. They were suspicious of who he was. And my colleagues and I, my colleague actually ended up opening the account, and it actually ended up being like pretty crazy great for him, but in the space of navigating some of the banks, you may not get that great relationship, and you have to go with the people who are going to provide you the best thing. They're going to make sure that you're doing well. They're going to care about you, because there are going to be some times that are rough, in the start of this. There's going to be some hits you're going to take, and those tough times don't last. They don't last. The tough people do, right? It's cheesy, but this is something that you're going to deal with, and it helps you learn how to navigate, and it builds some more responsibility. You start navigating why these things are important, and banking, institution, linguistics or language.
Yeah.
And those are the things that I learned by having great relationships, looking up the proper resources, and then taking action. I think it's easy to sometimes be like caught like a deer in the headlights with some of all the work that we have to do. But we got to keep pushing on for sure. So this is just one of those pieces that helps you get a grasp on where you're going.
I like it. And I think, one of the things that I looked for when I created my bank account is I wanted convenience. I heavily researched which companies provide the best and most frictionless customer support. I also was able to open mine online with a few clicks and submit documents by uploading them on the cloud instead of just visiting a branch. So yeah, there's two ways to approach this. You could do it online, which is the preferred way. And if you feel like you want to build a relationship with the bank, you can definitely visit the branch. But if you are just aiming for the big apples, know that as a BIPOC business owner, chances are you will be profiled. And they may or may not accept your application to get a business account, but don't feel let down. There's just so many options out there, and it is essential.
And it might even be a blind spot.
Yeah.
You may not even think that that's a factor, which in reality it shouldn't be a factor, right? But
it should not. Yeah.
It's you just learn how to navigate those different spaces, based off of the people that you have around you, because the people you have around you can give you information. They can share things like what bank helped them out, and didn't give them a hard time, and in that way you have a easy transition. There's integration that's like because of the relationship, and that's how I started with all of this. A lot of the information that I started with was based off of information that I learned through a relationship. Getting my EIN, and you're so scared, like, I don't know how to get my EIN or my employee identification number or your social security number for your business. They don't know how to get things like that. And then someone tells you like, oh yeah, it's free. Just put your information. Once you pay for your LLC or you have that formation of, your entity, these processes are free and they're paying for people to do them. Now that's not wrong, just due to timing. But if it's a process that you can learn about, I'm always a fan of learning how to navigate the system, because in that way you can help other people.
Yeah.
It's not about telling people the price. It's, you're telling them like, these are the things that I learned and this is how I learned it. You're teaching them the cost of it. And that's another thing with your Dun & Bradstreet number, another free number that you can get that tracks your business credit. Both of these numbers help track your business credit as it applies to business credit and income transaction history as it applies to the business in a separate entity, and not having those, they are essentially like not having a badge. When you need to have a certain level of clearance, they don't give you that certain level of clearance, and you want to be able to have those badges on you or on the entity, so that when it moves around, it has an established presence. The established presence allows for you to reap all the benefits of being a business owner or being a part of a system that is, essentially on the sales side, not necessarily just a consumer side.
Yeah, I like that. And I think, there's two types of learners. One type of learner likes to do their own research and then figure out what is a good fit for them. And they're more like learning through reading. And the other type of learner likes to ask questions. And, that's where having a friendly institution help you with that could greatly benefit you, because there's some people who just like to ask questions and get people's help and advice. And once they have a strategy, they know exactly what to do and they can implement it themselves. But
easily.
having
Yeah.
that extra help, and even if you're not going to open an account with a specific institution like Dun& Bradstreet, there's just so many people there that have helped businesses like yours, and they can provide you their feedback and insight, and getting that is greatly helpful to help yourself navigate to where you want to go. So
Yeah, man, different structure, different folks. Pause.
yeah.
Yeah, no, for real though, it's like it's corny, man. 4 + 5 = 9, but so does 6 + 3.
Yeah.
We all want the pie. Each person's gonna cut their pie differently because the
Yeah.
appetite is different. And so how we approach it, it doesn't need to be the same way that Mahir and I approach it. Mahir may approach it a different way than Bagua approaches it, right? And that's just,
Yeah.
I think that's just how things are. But incorporating our levels of understanding, it's like inspiration. It's like, oh, you did it this way, yeah, and I did it this way. Oh, we got the same result, but what are some benefits you're getting? Or is there better level of automation? Am I learning how to communicate better with my team? Is this allowing for us to get more accounts? Are you not getting the amount of income that you want because you're not being able to invoice clients? Instead, you're only selling. You only have strict amounts of packages that you offer as opposed to customizing. And so you have to have a certain type of banking system. Those are things that you help navigate on, what's the best benefit for you. And I've learned that really the hard way, figuring out ways to monetize my presence in a way that makes sense, and it provides a lot of value, and it provides equity with the people that I share with. And so having my banking institution, my credit information correct, just made sense. Then the tracking it comes right after. It's like, you just need to know how to track what's going on. You want to know where the money's going, for the sake of, no audits and, doors being rated and stuff like that.
And that's what makes you a great entrepreneur, right? Because you're actually learning from your mistakes and failing. You're actually implementing and failing and then learning as a result of the process, and trying different things to achieve the results that you desire. And a lot of people are afraid to take the initiative and do what it takes to get there. So it is, it's all about like doing it, acting fast. Yes, definitely spend a considerable amount of time doing your research, but don't just stay all day staring at your screen and figuring out what you want to do. Do it. Start somewhere. Doesn't matter where you start.
You gotta do something. You have to. Yeah, you can mess up. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You can mess some shit up really bad.
Messing up is part of the game, right?
Really bad. But it's like, you're not gonna try.
Yeah.
You're not gonna try. We're in a place of opportunity. I always kind of harp back to this, and I talk to my family about this all the time. And everyone has their own take on it. But our family, they went through a lot to get here, or they went through whatever they went through to get here. And not many people have the opportunity to be in the United States, or at least have experienced the United States in a way that has affected them positively, where they took some information and took it back to their home. So when you have the opportunity to do those things, I think it's important to at least do the best you can to master the land or master the space, because it's far too often that we get complacent. We get complacent with, I have this job and it's giving me what I need, but that's not what my family got me here for. Yes, they got me here to maintain and, survive, live, be, healthy and things like that. And beyond that, it's like, and how can I give back to my family in a way that will be affect them positively for the next 50 to 100 years? Like, how can I make sure something like that happens? Because if something like that happens, then I feel like I'm helping back the next generation. And they don't have to say, I'm not going to go back to my country because, you know, I don't have an affinity for it. We've helped bridge the affinity, because most of the time when I ask my family or anyone, when I ask anyone, you know, why aren't you traveling back to your home country, things like that, it's like, well, I work, you know, I get caught up in the money. And it's like, if that's the key, if that's what it is, then let's figure out how to get this done. Because people keep telling me money doesn't matter, but in these ways, like, that's how it affects us. We're not able to see family for so long. We have to WhatsApp family, you know, we have to FaceTime family, Zoom family. And I'm just going to go out on a whim and say that that's not what we necessarily want to do. But in the spaces and the circumstances that we're in, you know, those are the bridges that we take. So if we want to think big, you know, that's one of I love that book, The Magic of Thinking Big. You want to think big. It's like, dude, people are worried about hey, I don't know if I have enough money for traveling. Like, dude, think about this, like, own your own airplane, your own airline company. It's like, nobody wants to think that big. You know, own your own airport, you know, get a fleet of small jets or something. Then it's like, have that make you money, and then you can go travel wherever you want. It's like, not necessarily that that's what you want to do, but if you want to travel, how long is money gonna be the reason why you don't? I don't like that feeling. I don't think anyone likes that feeling. Like, how long is it gonna be? You know what I'm saying? How long is it gonna be for us to say, like, how do we start winning? You know, like, yeah, we're all doing okay, but there's a way for us to all win together. And I think there was like somebody saying, somebody super vague, I don't even know who this person is. But like, there's 97% of businesses fail in the first 2 years. Like, I don't even know if that's probably not even the right statistic, but the general concept of it is that most businesses fail when they start. Now, I don't know why. I don't necessarily know if it's always the capital, because in a way you can keep the business open, not make any money, you can keep it open. If you're not generating income, it's not necessarily going to hurt you.
You just have to report no income, right?
You can keep it open. So I'm wondering, is it that they didn't know how to navigate the finances, it got closed? Like, so everyone is different when it comes to that. But
I think people just give up, right? Like, they're focused on their steady paycheck, so they'll do all it takes to spend all their energy earning that paycheck, and then they're free.
It's like you're building your own retirement, though. That's the way we gotta think about it. And if it's in the employee mentality, then we need to incorporate that thought process. Like, yeah, the business is like your employment fund, you know, your retirement fund from employment. And learning how to navigate and track it just benefits you, you know. It will make sure that you will have something later on if you do it correctly, if you treat it correctly. It's made for that, you know. Or at least it should be made for that.
Yeah. And a lot of people, you know, like you said, why don't people travel? Is it because of money? I don't think it's because of the money. You know, many people say that safe travel for retirement, but by the time you retire, your travel will be boring. You'll be locked into a resort. You'll be wanting to play safe. You don't want to be adventurous. The best traveling happens when you're in your 20s and early 30s, because that's when you have ample of energy. You can take big risks. You can travel to countries, developing countries. You know, you can travel on a backpack. Flights are the only expense that you have to pay for, but once you're in the country, you can find ways, very cost-effective ways to travel cheap. Not a lot of people take that route. They get too locked down into their own system where they feel like, I don't have the money to travel, but then they go out every weekend to, you know, splurge money with their friends, hit the bars. Maybe if you save
the money's there.
The money is there.
You're saying the money is there. The money's there.
Yeah. It's not being spent properly. Heck, you can even you can even borrow money and pay it back on a loan and use that money to travel. But you need to travel because it helps you diversify your experiences. And when you're doing business in the real world, you'll be doing business with people from different countries, from different, you'll be interacting with people with different ethnicities. And those that are well traveled, they have the bandwidth to collaborate with people of different cultures, with people who think differently, because they're well traveled, they know what it's like. But not a lot of people are willing to take the risk because they're just too comfortable with their lifestyle where they do not want to make sacrifices to get to the next level. And I think short-term sacrifices are very important to help people navigate their finances and take calculated risks to build their retirement, to build a steady flow of passive income, because that, at the end of the day, is the most essential way to get out of your routine that makes you want to, it forces you to earn your next paycheck, right? So how do you get out of that routine? It's finding ways, cumulative, it's all about doing a little bit every day, and eventually it'll add up, and you will find a way
brick
to
by
retire.
brick,
Yeah.
Brick by brick, for sure. And it starts with the small things.
Yeah.
I started a little bit late, but starting, getting onto your tracking, building your expense report sheets, using systems that help automate that for you, so you don't have to sit there and use Excel all day and all night. There are things that you can build and help make your life a little bit easier, and the tracking, it just helps because when people look back, you have a record of all your transactions. So if there are worst case scenarios like an audit or things like that, or you just need to file your taxes or apply for loan to get capital to grow your business, it makes sense to have tracked a lot of those expenses, which means putting your money into your business bank account that is made from those business processes and making sure that is earmarked as a business transaction. I find that many people use their business and still put their money into their personal account. If you need to pay yourself, then pay yourself, but you can do that from your business, so that it's tracked and that you know what's going on and how much was sent to you, so that you know how much needs to be paid in taxes, or needs to be deducted, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
It allows for you to just have that easy transition. I believe we're filing our taxes, and it was scary, dude. Like it's crazy. You just don't want to mess up, but you have to do it. And once you do it, you start getting the confidence around what it's supposed to be. Then you start knowing, oh, that's a benefit that you get, or this is something that happens when you do this, or when you are this. And speaking to the people who are around you, building those relationships helps you navigate. I'm not necessarily sure, in the space that you are here, but I know that you're diligent on looking up those things like that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, to me, I think self-learning is very important in this area, because before I even spoke to any professional, I had a general understanding of how bookkeeping and accounting works, because my very first job out of college was an administrative assistant to a CEO of a startup. And my main goal was to organize the company's business and personal expenses on a platform called Wave. It's a free platform, and it's just where you connect your bank account to the platform, your business bank account, and then it gives you a summary of all your expenses. And then all you have to do is categorize it into different categories. And at that point of time, I remember categorizing restaurant expenses under meals and entertainment. I would categorize, different expenses under different categories, and those categories were already auto-suggested to me. So I just have to, just click the drop-down box and, just put the transaction there. So I was doing that for over a year, and it helped me understand basic accounting But this is something one can simply do by themselves if they open an account with QuickBooks or Wave or FreshBooks or Xero. They will have access, they will be able to connect their bank accounts, and they'll be able to see a screen where they can organize the transactions. But if at any point they're stuck, they can do some research. And if you feel like this is something that you cannot do on your own, or you feel like it's taking a lot of my time and energy, and if your business is keeping you busy in other areas where you need to focus on revenue generation, then it makes sense to consult with someone. And QuickBooks has their own internal consultants, which you can sign up for by paying a little bit of a premium, but you get access to CPAs who can help you organize your books. For the first few months, when you're just new to the process and starting a business, I'd recommend doing it yourself. And then after your focus has changed, and once your focus is more towards revenue generation and you have a good stream of clients and prospects in your business, then that's the point where you can take a step back and hire a specialist or even consult with a specialist and have them help you manage your books. Yeah. Is that how it worked for you as well, Byron, or do you have a different approach?
I have a couple of family members in the tax consulting industry. So one of my focuses was just getting all my ducks in a row and then providing it to them so that they can review it for me. But it was important for me to also make sure that I did that, because diversifying my business interests from my personal, I think it's in the future is probably going to be to the benefit of me, to anyone who's getting into the space. And so that helped me just separate everything, push that way, push this way, itemize everything. And that was pretty cool, but also daunting. So, it helped me build the confidence of it. But I also had people around me that I can bring that information to, that provided some advice to me, or at least different pathways to go to. And then ending up filing with, one of them helped out as well. So I would say that's been the biggest benefit, is learning how to navigate it, building the resources around me and the relationships, and then I was able to just get it done in a timely fashion.
And this is where we're backtracking to episode 4, where we discuss the importance of community engagement, right? Because the relationships
we're going to circle around it. We're going to circle around that a lot.
Exactly. Sure. And whenever you're stuck, know that you have help, and help is available everywhere, whether it's online, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends. You just have to take the initiative to reach out, and you can self-navigate as well as get external advice and take it to your advantage, right? So that's awesome. Cool. So I think the main 2 topics that we need to touch on is filing taxes and diversifying business interests. So, I'd say once your bookkeeping is all set up and you understand the importance of why it's important to track your finances to prevent audits, even get access to business loans when you start building a business credit score. It's also important to file your taxes on a consistent basis. And I believe some businesses have to file quarterly, some businesses have to file annually, and also pay estimated taxes, but that is an important part of the process. And it would be highly advisable at that point of time on, when you have everything in order and you have your ducks in a row, to get in touch with an attorney to help you with understanding what the best solution is for you, whether you should work with a CPA, whether you should work with a financial advisor. So what are your thoughts on that, Byron?
I think you have to do your research and then ask the right questions. You have to realize that this is a long game, so you have to ask the right questions and take the steps. As you were just mentioning that, I was just thinking about some things that I got to get done, and it's like, man, come back to the space, come back present, because that's really what we're doing it for. That's the inspiration, is really like, man, take your time to do it right. And I think it'll benefit you. And if not benefit you, at least it's something else you can put on your portfolio when you want to apply to your next job. You know, you're operations manager, creative director, CEO of this company, co-founder, whatever that is, you know, and then you build on the experiences. So if you end up wanting to go back, there's that, right? But you're building an understanding about how to empower yourself and those around you, and not being scared of it, because those are processes that we're not scared of, but people have fear around individually. So on an entity level, you know, that fear is not necessarily going to be gone because there's the lack of awareness. And I think once you build your awareness around the process and the language, you know, you just build your confidence and build a positive ecosystem, you know, of the
but I like that
ownership.
you said come prepared and ask questions, because people will just contact the CPA and they're like, okay, I need my taxes done, can you help me? But before you do that, it's important to understand if the CPA has worked with the type of business that that your business category is in. If they haven't worked with, let's say, consultant agencies before, it might not be a good idea to use that CPA. So yeah, I'd say maybe first research on the different options you have. And consulting with an attorney is another great way to understand the options you have, specific to your business, because the attorney will generally ask specific questions around that. But once you have that figured out, once you fill out an intake, you understand the type of specialists that you need to see. And before you see them, I'd say do research, shortlist the best 10 or 15 companies based on your search online, based on their reviews, based on their SEO, because the best ones have good SEO strategies and their results are always in the top search results. But more importantly, look at their websites, shortlist it down to 10 or 15 and contact all of them, get quotes from them, because some of them might charge higher, some of them might charge lower, but once you get the best quotes, you can eliminate the ones that don't mean anything to you and focus on the ones that could potentially benefit you. And once you contact all of them, maybe ask them the same series of questions, maybe come up with 10 questions and ask them the same 10 questions. You can literally copy and paste the template online on the right questions to ask and send it to as many specialists as you see online. And once you're able to find the best price point, someone that has worked with your business before, your business category, then the decision-making process is a lot easier from there. So yeah, preparation is important, research is important, and once you're prepared, once you do your research, it doesn't matter if you contact 20 different agencies. Their job is to assist you and give you quotes, right? What are they going to do if you don't pick them?
Aren't there individual contributors that provide that service as well, like on Fiverr and Upwork?
Yes, absolutely. So the beauty of Upwork and Fiverr is that you can get more cost-effective options. You can hire freelancers who have experience with taxes, with finances. If you are going that route, I would highly recommend looking at the reviews and the success rate, and if they have certain certifications in their profiles, because sometimes working with freelancers, even if they're in a different country, as long as they have knowledge of US laws and they have worked with clients like you, it could be a great idea to go that route, especially if cost savings is important to you. So I'm glad you brought that up. Those are two other great platforms that you can get access to financial experts, advisors, CPAs, and even attorneys. That's how we would file taxes, and then finally we can the focus is diversifying your business interests and building a positive ecosystem of ownership. So once your finances and income and expenses are figured out, you're headed to the right track. And once you're on the right track, your focus should then be how you can diversify your interests, whether it is opening up a different LLC for your second business idea. But once you have your stuff figured out for your main business, for at least one business of yours, diversifying gets a lot easier, and building your second business is a lot less time consuming and harder than your first business. So yeah.
Yeah, man, thank you for sharing that. It's really, we get into this for a certain reason, and as you get along with it, you start learning different reasons and different tactics, and this is just one of them. You know, building the understanding has helped me so much. It's tremendous. Building a relationship with, you know, people like yourself has allowed for me to continue pushing on in a more powerful way. You know, and I think, man, that's what we need. We need more people like that, or at least people like that affecting other people in a positive way. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, thank you once again.
Yeah, thanks, Byron. This was great. And the next discussion for next episode would be, we'd talk more about quality control. And we also touch a little bit more about diversifying your interests. But, you know, the take from this is your first business is always going to be the hardest, because that's when you have to do a lot of research, get some knowledge on understanding and navigating your finances. But once you have figured that out, once you're on that journey, the second and third attempts and the other companies that you start become a lot less time consuming financially, because you already have an infrastructure that you can use to replicate it for different businesses that you can open. So.
And drown yourself in the information, you know, always have the information playing around you. Sometimes when you're playing music, you can really just be playing something that's sharing with you about a process, or sharing with you about a concept, or sharing with you about an inspiring act, or an inspiring conversation around getting into business. You know, those are things that you can always have around you, because not everybody wants to see numbers. Not everybody wants to see, you know, legal papers and all this big terminology. But if you make it just normal, it just becomes second language to you. You know, you're gonna build an affinity to it, not necessarily because you've always liked it, but because you see some value in it, and the language starts becoming scary to you.
Yeah.
You know, you started saying like, oh, I kind of know how to navigate that, or, you know, here, you use it in a conversation and you see a door that opens, and those are tools that allow for you to build that that being. You know, you're just being your intentions, and your intentions are centered around, you know, getting your business together, getting your family's future together, or your future together. And there are certain processes that allow for you to do that to the best of your advantage. And tracking your income and expenses allows for you to do that. Absolutely. It's just one tool that allows for you to do that.
Yeah. And, you know, just learn every day. Don't be scared of these topics, because if you even learn in small increments every day, it's compound interest. It will add up eventually, and you will be on the right track. So, well, thank you again for your time. This is awesome, and we will see you on the next episode.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you.